Hey everyone, welcome to a kind of scary episode of BioLogic Science News. Today I want to talk about malaria, and how a particular strain of malaria has evolved resistance to the drugs that we use to treat it. Malaria is a really dangerous disease, guilty of killing more humans throughout our history than almost any other cause, including dysentery and diarrhea, malnutrition, and even violent conflict. The disease is caused by a parasitic protozoan, an amoeba, in the genus Plasmodium, which gets carried from host to host through a mosquito vector, specifically the Anopheles mosquito. There are several subspecies of the Plasmodium amoeba, with some being more aggressive and pathological and virulent than others. Strains like Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium malariae, and Plasmodium ovale are all dangerous, but they cause relatively mild cases of malaria. The most dangerous strain of malaria is called Plasmodium falciparum, which can cause a huge range of horrible symptoms, and of all the malaria strains, it's the one that will most frequently lead to death. If the P. falciparum strain infects your liver, it'll cause nausea, abdominal pain, vomiting, and jaundice. If it infects your brain, you might get what's called cerebral malaria, which leads to brain inflammation, you feel confused and disoriented, you fall into a coma, and then you die. As if this wasn't scary enough as it is, a strain of Plasmodium falciparum in Southeast Asian countries like Cambodia, Thailand, and Vietnam have recently evolved resistance to several key anti-malarial drugs. For a long time, the most effective anti-malarial drugs were chemicals called artemisinins, especially when they were used in combinations with other drugs, like the drug combination dihydroartemisinin, which causes oxidative stress within the Plasmodium parasite, combined with piperacin, which helps clear malaria out of the liver. This newly emergent strain of supermalaria has evolved a resistance to artemisinin, which forced the disease control organizations of the Southeast Asian countries to fall back to their second line of defense. But then the falciparum strain evolved resistance to those drugs too, and this has forced them to fall back yet again to their kind of third-tier group of anti-malarial drugs. And these are third-tier because they're just not as effective. But at this point, it's all that they really have. Where the combined drug treatment of dihydroartemisinin and piperacin were first-line defenses against the spread of malaria, this emergent strain has evolved resistances to both of those drugs. Basically, the strongest anti-malarial drugs we have aren't able to touch this strain anymore. The anti-malarial drugs induce a strong selective pressure against the malaria, just like all antibiotics do for bacteria. Normally, when you take an antibiotic, the prescription dosage should be enough so that they kill pretty much all of the bacteria in your body. But if you don't take all of your antibiotic medication, or you don't take it on schedule, this gives the bacteria a chance to recuperate or spread and regrow, and the prescription just won't kill them off entirely. It'll just kill off the weakest and leave behind the strongest. In this way, rampant antibiotic use, especially in the agriculture industry, where cows are just pumped full of antibiotics, this is creating really virulent antibiotic-resistant superbugs. Now, malaria is a protozoan amoeba, not a bacteria, but the same concept, the same evolutionary principle, still applies to them too. If they aren't fully killed by a drug treatment, the strongest individual amoeba will survive, and they'll be the ones to reproduce. And according to the fundamental rules of natural selection, they'll slowly evolve a greater and greater resistance to the very chemicals that we use to kill them. And now we've really come full circle, where a strain of the most lethal subspecies of Plasmodium has evolved resistance to our best drugs and has become supermalaria. Because this just isn't bad enough, the strain of Plasmodium falciparum, this super malaria, is out competing all of the other malaria around it, and it's spreading. It's spreading throughout Southeast Asia, out of Cambodia, where it first appeared, and it's since spread to Laos, Thailand, and Vietnam, and I doubt that it's going to stop there. This international spread of the disease is an international concern, so it'll require multiple countries, not just from Asia, but from all over the world, to work together and address this growing problem and try to contain it before it spreads. I mean, hopefully the spread of super malaria can be stifled or slowed or something before it becomes a much more serious problem, like a pandemic.